Hello, and welcome to today's session, Vehicle Sales and Service 2022. Bring a change with conversational AI. The buying patterns for automobiles have changed over time. Gone are the days when consumer would walk into a showroom and ask the dealer for their recommendations. Buyers today research meticulously online before committing to a purchase. According to a Google report, 92% of car buyers almost spend 14 hours on internet researching and weighing their options based on a variety of parameters such as brand, features, interiors, pricing, and so on. I have done that. The same research suggested that 2/3 of people make their decision online and post-purchase book their vehicles online too. However, there are multiple lags in the online shopping experience, especially for automobiles, that need to be dealt with. For example, web experiences are clunky, mobile apps are difficult to navigate, and while the buyers are tech savvy, most dealerships are not. This leaves a lacuna in user experience and customer engagement. So the big question arises as to how can auto brands navigate this situation and emerge victorious. In today's session, let us hear from industry stalwarts and learn their best practices and uncover how conversational AI is transforming the automotive industry and is creating a seamless experience for the customers. So without wasting any time, I welcome my panelists for the day. My first panelist for the day is Mr. Nalin Kapoor, CEO, Car and Bike. Welcome, Nalin. Nalin, can you hear me?
Thanks, Devesh. Thank you for having me here. Thanks everybody who has joined this session, and we really look forward to an engaging discussion. Thank you.
Glad you can take out some time, Nalin. Thank you. My next panelist for the day is Mr. Alok Sarogi, Head of Marketing, TVS Auto Solutions. Welcome, Alok.
Thank you, and good to be here.
Thank you, Alok. My next panelist for the day is Mr. Sudhir Malhotra, VP Sales and Marketing, Renault India. Welcome, Sudhir.
Hi, thank you, Devesh, and looking forward to an engaging discussion with everyone. Thank you.
Great. My next panelist for the day is Mr. Shakil Anjum, General Manager, Sales and Marketing Planning, Honda Car India. Welcome, Shakil. Hi, Shakil.
Thank you, Devesh, and hello, everyone. Glad to be here. Looking forward to a good discussion.
Thank you, Shakil. And my final panelist for the day is Mr. Sanjoy Roy, co-founder and CEO, AskSaid. Welcome, Sanjoy.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm looking forward to learning from all the industry stalwarts today. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone. You could take out time to join this discussion. I look forward to a very, very interesting discussion and seeking some learnings from you. So my first question is to all of you. How has pandemic ushered a change in the overall consumer behavior for the auto industry? Sanjoy, let's start with you first.
Yeah, so just to set things in context, I think in auto industry typically you don't. It's a very high-touch industry. Car buying, very emotional category, right? So you can't think of buying cars or dealing with cars without those trips to the dealers, and it's very exciting as well. I think from a pandemic standpoint, clearly we see a shift, right, which is about consumers opening up their mind first and now kind of getting used to dealing with cars, both pre-sale, post-sale, in the digital medium and getting used to it, I think more importantly. But at the same time, with 2 years of pandemic, I also sense that, in the era of a 10-minute grocery delivery, there is very high expectations also from consumers in terms of getting service, getting their answers instantly, which kind of also poses the sort of a challenge and an opportunity for car companies out there.
Okay. Shakil, what's your thoughts on this? How has the customer behavior changed?
So I think more than change, the customer behavior only accelerated in the terms of digitalization. The process was already there. We were already working on tech stacks and whatnot. But two very quick learnings, which I think have come during COVID is, the number one is, till COVID happened, customer was largely looking at search and information online. But with introduction of online booking, by almost everybody. We saw the last leg also coming there and a lot of online bookings happening. I think this trend is there to stay. The second part is the huge change which has happened in the dealerships digitalization process, especially in their marketing process. They had no choice. So they went ahead and equipped themselves. And I think that trend will also stay. These are the two big changes according to me.
Interesting. Sudhir, do you concur with the two trends that Shakil has shared?
Sure. In fact, these are significant changes that we have seen. I would say from a consumer behavior point of view, the first thing that we saw as an industry was there was typically a preference to move over from public transport to personal means. That's something that the industry witnessed across. The second part, as Shakil was mentioning, the consumer behavior across, I would say, pre-sales, sales, and even after sales has turned towards an experience that they want digitally. And in a way, it also generated that kind of a change in the industry, in the dealerships, also in the OEMs across, to adapt to this changing and evolving behavior. And third most remarkable thing that we saw as OEMs here was while urban digitization was expected, it's a remarkable and significant increase in digitization process in the rural India. In fact, if I go by one specific arrangement that we have done with CSCs, which is largely Grameen e-stores, which is rural electronic based Grameen services, our 100% of the sales happen through digital. Digital first. The rural customers approaching us digitally first. So there's a remarkable and significant increase of digitization of rural India that we saw post-pandemic or during all these phases. So three significant changes, I would say, to add on to what Shakil mentioned.
Interesting. Any interesting observations, Nalin, that you have, in terms of, how the customer behavior has changed?
Sure, Devesh. At the risk of repeating, what my co-panelists said, absolutely, there is a strong progression towards using digital interfaces that we could observe. And because I come from that industry, just to give you a flavor, in terms of traffic data, in terms of time spent on kind of platforms, in terms of pages visited, we could see a definitive and sudden spurt, right? And pandemic happened sometime in the month of March, April. We are talking of the first wave. And within a matter of couple of weeks, you could start seeing immediate traction on these key metrics, and I'm talking hardcore data that told us something which was likely to happen, which all of us were anticipating to happen, has happened at a very fast pace. So familiarity, understanding, and comfort with the digital media. Okay, let me break it down into three distinct parts of the automotive ecosystem. One is the consumer, the other is dealers and OEMs, companies. And it was heartening to note that all three parts of the ecosystem responded very well to that challenge, by utilizing digital interfaces. I briefly spoke about consumer habits, how they started visiting platforms, digital mediums. As Sudhir mentioned earlier, and Shakil, in terms of what they do, they went beyond just researching. They started to interface with the mid-funnel products, all that happened. Dealers who probably were slow to kind of jump into the bandwagon over the last few years, digital, we saw a strong connect with them because they could see what is happening to the consumers. And we could see that dealers started engaging with digital products to connect to their consumers, so on and so forth. And the OEMs from their side, you would have observed some of the launches which happened during that time, car launches, there were digital first medium. So you had virtual launches, you had virtual interfaces, you had booking engines, you had so on and so forth. So I think net-net, it had a positive impact as far as digitization is concerned. And lastly, I would make a point. Sudhir, you mentioned about preference for personal vehicles. Yes, we could observe that at platforms. And also used vehicles, I would put it on the table, Used vehicles also gain a lot of traction, and digitization of that part of auto industry was also very visible. Yeah.
Interesting. Now, coming to you, Alok, how has the overall customer journey changed? Digital is like, is becoming a very key, a very central thing to the entire industry, and auto industry too. So how is the consumer journey, changing in this segment?
So I think a fundamental difference between some of my other co-panelists and the business that I manage is that we're in the aftermarket space. So OEs manufacture vehicles and we look after them for our customers. At my TVS, we're building India's largest aggregating multi-brand aftermarket platform, right, for both four-wheelers and two-wheelers. And I think it's the best time to be in the business that we are in. The pandemic certainly changed consumer expectation and behavior. We are seeing a business case to go wide and deep, and therefore our scale, reach, and offering is increasing manifold. A big change is the willingness to downtrade in this category, right? Which means look at non-OE solutions. Look at aggregators like us to offer the same solutions at greater value and better pricing. That's certainly a big change that's happened. We are seeing a tremendous increase in the search volumes, right? Which means from top of funnel to conversion to LTV, all metrics are showing greater stickiness. Our top of funnel increases every single day. Our conversion ratios are improving every single day as well. And we're seeing greater retention and larger LTVs, right? And I think that's a significant change, certainly from pre-pandemic levels. And that's because all of us have experienced digital services that solve real problems. And therefore, the customer is not asking why, but asking why not. If somebody mentioned 10-minute delivery, if I can get it in that space, then why can't I get a similar experience? Quick, fast, efficient, and cost efficient in the aftermarket space. And that's a big change that we're seeing.
Okay. Shakil, are you also seeing, at Honda, are you also seeing, a similar change in the customer purchase journey, in terms of, the funnel conversion, lifetime value, as well as the retention bit?
Absolutely. So let me just summarize this in one figure, which is quite telling. We just recently launched our HEV product, City, and 40% of the current booking is online. So now you might attribute this, and we are attributing this to the product itself, which is high tech and speaks to a different kind of audience. But I think this clearly indicates how comfortable the customer has become with online and how far they have come in terms of their journey towards digitization and purchase. I think some of the other OEMs have also experienced similar things, at least at launch time. To just quickly elaborate on this, I think it hasn't happened overnight. Most of us who are above 40 will clearly remember the days when you would call and ask, "Khane mein kya bana hai?" Is it available or not? Or if you want to book an airline's ticket, you'll double check, especially for foreign travel with the travel agents, is the visa okay? Today, we do this as a second nature, even our generation. And we are looking at a generation 10 years younger, 5 years, 15 years younger, coming into this fold. For them, it is no longer even a question, whether you require a touch and feel experience. So going forward, the customer journey is going to change more and more towards the virtual part. A physical part will have to integrate itself and move forward in that sense. That's my thought.
Okay. Sudhir, how are these interactions, as Shakil also mentioned and Alok also mentioned that, increasingly the customer purchase journey will be tilting more and more digital, and the newer generations will be looking for more and more seamless experiences, unlike, what it used to be 2 decades or 3 decades ago. So, today, how much of the quantum of the discussion that, auto brands are having with the, customers is shifting online? Is it like the complete discussion has gone online? Where they are, looking at from the search to the final conversion and then to the after sales, or it's some bit still, it's one can say that it's more like a phygital experience.
So, Devesh, first of all, this entire ecosystem, I would say, in pre-sales, sales, after sales, this has hugely shifted to digital. It's digital, definitely, because you cannot wish away right now the physical existence of the infrastructure, but
Right.
the transformation is exponential. So we had created at Renault created a digital infrastructure which further accelerated because of the situation that we all witnessed during the last 2.5 years. And so the conversations, they start much earlier at the time of search itself. Something like something like that. We've got Renault virtual studio, which helps the customers to envisage their cars, how they can accessorize it in the comfort of their homes and offices, on the mobile or on the websites. And this medium where the customer is helped to search about his choices, then culminates into something where he can book the car online. So our transactions have, if I have to put a figure, there were around 20% bookings that came through us through digital medium pre-pandemic. They're more than doubled now. So almost 40%, a little over 40% of our business now is coming through digital initiated conversations with our audience, which is almost twice the figure. And then to further act on it, there is finance. The customers today have the choice to even engage in financing and have complete finance through the online media within our website itself. So that's the kind of transformations that we've been seeing. And to top it, there is a Renault virtual assistant, the chatbot that we had introduced, and we probably will talk more about it. But that's something which customers are using across their journey, since our chatbot also gives them the freedom to interact regarding their after sales. So it's something which is now helping customers to interact on sales, on pre-sale sales, and even after sales. So a complete, I would say, consumer experience through the chatbot itself. And for our customers on the digital side, we've got something which is a captive app, My Renault, where the consumer can go online, make his bookings, understand his invoicing, know his history, and so it's a clear ecosystem which has been created, and a lot of conversations across pre-sale, sales, and after sales happening. And to help, the other part which we earlier touched upon, to help our dealers also understand this, there are certain digital apps to help them train. So there is separate apps for our frontliners on service and sales to help them, train themselves for the changing environment that we are all witnessing, and that too, which is changing very rapidly. So I would say huge transformation, almost double the sales now from the digital medium, and huge interactions on after sales, which the customers are doing as we speak.
Great. Nalin, are you also witnessing, similar kind of transformation of business from the digital medium, in terms of sales, in terms of conversations, in terms of brand building?
Yes, precisely so. Sudhir gave a insight into the entire sales journey. And I would say whether it's new vehicles or used vehicles, we are seeing the same level of traction. See, what has also happened over the last few years now, and which is a pleasant probably thing to talk about, OEMs have driven a lot of these digital initiatives, and whether it's sales, pre-sales, after sales, exchanges, spare parts. I think OEMs have put together a lot of technology through vendors or through their own in-house sources, and all that is leading to a big push. We can see that. I think that's phase number one. Beyond this, I think tying up those journeys is what I would say is the task ahead for the industry, because while we look at pre-sales, post-sales, so on and so forth, different technologies, different elements of the stack working in isolation, but how to stitch them together, how to bring a technology stack which is easy for consumers to use for whatever service he requires during the life cycle of his interface. I think that's the phase we are entering now. And there are a lot of technology companies, a lot of platforms who are working on it. Sanjoy, there's a lot probably to learn from guys like you also. You said you have to learn a lot, you will be learning a lot from us, but I think the topic is such that all of us kind of are always reinventing ourselves, so you are one of those guys. So Devesh, coming to the point, I think now stitching together journeys and actually ensuring that those digital journeys mirror what is happening on ground, so tying up the physical and digital interfaces into so-called phygital. It's been a often used word, whatever you may call it. I think that's the phase we have all entered. Next couple of years, 2 to 3 years, will define how we progress from there.
Okay. And then coming to the next question of for Sanjoy, which actually, Nalin, you just mentioned, how we all gonna need to learn from Sanjoy actually.
Yeah.
So, Sanjoy, how are brands, catering to this? So what's happening is that, post-pandemic, the quantum of digital discussions increased stupendously. I mean, there was a huge barrage of digital discussions. Everybody went on digital, and they were expecting that brands who had excelled on the digital should be also responding to them, and the ones who are not there should also be responding to them. So how are brands catering to this increasing quantum of digital interactions? And what's important for them to do is that come out in a single voice and ensure that the brand messaging is uniform throughout the communication with the customer. So how are brands doing that?
Yeah, so I'll share what we saw in the last 2 years, again, experiential sharing, learning from each other. So I think one of our customers, for example, they had, let's say, a 40-member service team, customer service team, right, who will be picking up these calls or digital interactions, etc. Within 6 to 8 months, that 40-member team, they had to scale to 400. Because I think for precisely the point which Sudhir mentioned, we are not talking about increase, we are talking about exponential increase. So, 10x growth in volumes of calls, queries from different channels pouring in. And you hit the ceiling, right? You can't hire more people. I mean, throwing people is no longer the solution. Right? Because one is obviously the scale and skill of people, but it's also about brand itself, right? You'll start losing the consistency, right? You have to train this new workforce on, let's say, Honda cars, Renault cars, and whatever products that you are selling, adding to more costs and all of that. And that's where I think we saw, and I think to Alok's point, it was a good time for us to be in business because the conversational AI came to the forefront, right, where we suddenly saw a lot of adoption, inquiries coming in. And just think of it this way: one time you build the content or whatever messaging, and with one click, single unified API, you are able to reach customers across 30 plus channels. Right, so that's like the power of the conversational AI, the technology that we are here to talk about. In terms of implementing it, what we saw again in the last 2 years, I think the focus first was to go after the low-hanging fruits. So if you relook into your individual business, right, and it's true for almost all business, maybe 50% of all consumer questions are kind of repetitive. Right, and if they can, there is a classic case of automation, right? So very quickly you can automate that 50% of the queries, which means that you don't have to go from 40 to 400 in terms of people. Maybe go from 40 to 60, and you are able to address 50% of those queries upfront. And over a period of time, by nature of the technology itself, conversational AI, it's like a self-learning component. Right, so the AI itself starts becoming better and better. The AI itself starts learning from all the past questions, interactions, etc. And very soon, over time, the same set of customers say that 50% has gone up to 80%, 90% in many cases. Right. So I would say that again, conversational AI is one of those tools. But again, we are going to speak a lot more where it can't stand in isolation, right? We are talking about large digital transformation projects, programs within these companies. And the issue will be about how do you design a solution where conversational AI works in tandem with some of the other digital solutions which are out there.
True that. So Alok, what has been your experiences with with these chatbots? How they have helped your brand in achieving greater success.
So, I mean,
Alok,
look,
can you?
yeah. So, like all retail businesses, everyone on this panel lives a schizophrenic life because we all aggregate online, but we fulfill offline, right? And there are inherent challenges of therefore marrying the two. Having said that, like I said, our metrics are improving and growing on an everyday basis. When we look at conversational AI, right, there is enough evidence to say that consumers continue to look at the comfort and the reassurance of human interactions. As much as 67% of people who are looking for solutions, especially in the auto space, prefer a human interaction, which is less so in the banking industry because there is established precedent now that technology will substitute for humans, but not so in the auto space, right? So that's something we are thinking about very hard. Our realization is that we're still searching for the right solution. I have to be honest, but we're looking for a technological solution that marries the simplicity of human interaction with the efficiency of technological solution. And we haven't yet found that sweet spot in a sense. Do we need to automate? Oh, clearly the writing's on the wall. It's just so inefficient from a cost point of view to continue to run a human intensive business. But at the same time, if you want to grow at the pace that we are growing and it's quite scorching, we need to take baby steps toward that because we have a engine that is running and we can't disrupt that. So we're still looking for that right solution in a sense that gives us, like I said, human interaction married to tech efficiency and therefore allows us to do technology in a more humane way. And we haven't really found that because most tech solutions we've evaluated so far seem to be very, cut and dry, cookie cutter off the shelf. And it's one size fits all. And I don't think that's the solution to the auto space where 67% of people continue to want to speak to human beings, right? So,
Okay. And, at Honda, Shakil, what has your experience been with the bots? Have you dabbled with this technology or are you planning to dabble with this technology in the coming future? How it is working at Honda?
Yeah, sure, Devesh. So actually, I'll pick on two cues which Sanjoy and Alok touched upon. So one is that it is more than just a chatbot. It needs to be an entire ecosystem. It's just one element. Without that, it doesn't work. And customers still crave for human touch or sensitivity or empathy, especially in service as far as interaction is concerned. So very quickly, our experience with rule-based chatbots that beyond taking service appointments and some simple tasks, you hit a wall very quickly. So we have dabbled a little bit with conversational AI, as you say, more at dealerships and insurance and service. And the results are mixed, I would say, in the sense chatbots on their own probably have a limited role to play. It's the entire ecosystem. But chatbots supported by, say, an agent who is further supported by uh, intelligent suggestions, contextual information available, tag, so many other things actually works quite well. We have seen dealerships, getting a revenue jump of 5% to 15% moving on to these systems. And we are saying how to expand this further. Second point, I think the learning which I would like to share is it depends a lot on the backward integration. Okay, so this is the front end. So finally, how well a dealership or OEM's network is integrated to his lead management system, stocks, pricing, etc., the better results you will get. So if you get both of these right, I think we are somewhere in that hybrid situation where we need to bring up AI and automation as quickly as possible. At the same time, remain, keep some human element going for some time. Right. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. Sudhir, at Renault, have you, deployed chatbots? I mean, how in your customer sales service, in terms of leads, how bots have helped the brand?
So Devesh, yes, we have. In fact, what we had done was somewhere in August 20, we had introduced, the classical chatbot, what we call as Renault Virtual Assistant. the interesting part is when we started it as only a bot that could help answer queries specifically for our audience, for the prospects. So it was something that they could engage with, understand the specifications, download the brochures, and so on and so forth. But it was limited to largely the search support for a new prospect. But as time progressed, we saw we saw the depth to which it could go, and we've augmented it to take requests for test drives. So now the bot helps take test drive requests, even do booking through the chatbot. And as Shakil was mentioning, there's a lot of integration which is required,
Right.
be it in our DMS systems and so on and so forth, so that you don't finally waste the things that you've been able to, the data that you've been able to accumulate. So there is a lot of integration that keeps on happening. Today, there are almost 200,000 conversations every month that is happening on our chatbot.
Wow.
Now, which is small if I compare it with finance industry, but it's substantial if I see it from where we started to where we are. And uh, going by the digital infrastructure that we had all created, even on the app that I was talking for our customers, we've learned from there and taken some of these into the chatbot, which now is extended to even our customers. So the customers can see their history, they can do their service bookings. So the chatbot today is not just limited to the search that we started it off with, but helps us get leads, helps us get bookings. The booking amount can be paid through it, and the service needs are also being looked into. So it's been a journey, still a small one, I would say, because there is a tremendous potential here. So I
Absolutely.
think we are
Absolutely.
uncovering and we are moving as we integrate our requirements over the period of time. Yeah.
One question here, Sudhir. I mean, like with these 200,000 conversations, how much of the workload has gone down at your customer care center? Because bots tend to help you with a lot of queries, which are the first level basic queries. Is that is my car ready? Is that model available, etc., etc. So how it has helped you at that level, in putting down the
I
load
would
on the
say
customer?
that every year, like with the increase in the car park, increase in the new car sales, you need, at least at the OEM center, a much bigger contact center, so that you're able to take care of all those needs and queries which keep on coming to you directly through the contact center. Now, for the last 2 years, we've been able to rationalize some bit there, which means that these bots have helped, one, to give timely information. The more important part, more than resource, I would say, was the timely information, because this is available 24/7 to our customers. So it's a
Absolutely.
timely information to the prospects as well as to the customer, and accurate and precise, sans emotions, uh, without any delay. So this is what is being appreciated by the customers. Yes, there is a fair amount of, I would say, resource optimization that has happened at contact center and even at dealer points with this. Uh, and again, through information that we get to know, we also understand the intent, how strong the intent of the prospects is, at what point in time of the purchase cycle is now our prospect is. So even that is a big help to the teams.
True that. True that. Nalin, so at Car and Bike, what has been your experience with the bots, and how it has helped your brands either in securing more leads or in reducing the customer care load. How it has helped you.
Sure, as my colleague said, I think we are a part of the auto industry, so everybody has experimented with technologies like bots. Let's be honest about it. And let me be honest with you, in any meeting, in any technology meeting, any product meeting, there is definitely a good reference to chatbots and conversational AI, So everybody is cognizant of the value such technologies can bring in, both in terms of increasing customer satisfaction connect, as well as reducing costs, right? Sanjoy, what you were mentioning earlier. Okay. So the relevance of chatbots and conversational AI, those technologies are understood, and we have experimented with very good results. However, I would say these are just first steps, because the significant road lies ahead of us. And why I say so, look at auto industry aggregated, whether it's cars or commercial vehicles, even bikes in that segment. I think it's a very high involvement purchase for any consumer, for any Indian consumer. It's a high value purchase also, come to think of it. And it's a very complex purchase also. So you have sales, you have trade-ins, you have insurance, you have finance, you have service, you have this, accessories. So it's a complex purchase also. So all in all, automotive is a complex industry from the consumer side of it, whether sales or service or used vehicles. I would say the technologies in terms of bots or conversational AI, what we have at this point of time, address some top of the funnel or basic functions, and they have done pretty well, I would say. Okay, and they are becoming more and more meaningful. The challenge from now on is considering the complexity of our industry, and because of the complexity, there is a strong and inherent need for physical meetings, consumer connect, all that. Now, bots and AI technologies have to start substituting that. Okay, and that means they have to become more and more intelligent. Bots have to become more and more intelligent. Technologies have to become more and more intelligent, and they can only become intelligent if a lot of data is fed back. Right? And to do that, there is a lot of collaboration which is required, because OEMs have a very strong understanding of the physical journeys and what is happening to consumers and how digital interface. Technology companies understand the functionalities, relevance, and application of technology, but they don't have the data of consumers, right? And unless there's a collaboration among various stakeholders, our bots will not get smarter, our technologies will not get smarter. So, Sanjoy, if I may say, in addition to a lot of effort needs to be put in now on ML as well, because they both have to work in tandem. Otherwise, the bots will not become smarter. They will not be able to respond to the inherent need for a human interface, because ultimately we are dealing with a very complex process. Okay. So that's where we are. Next 2 to 3 years will be very interesting. And Alok, what you mentioned initially when we started, I think all of us are still looking for that product, that optimum product. So in bits and pieces, everybody has experimented, but everybody's looking for something which I'm very sure over a period of time, all of us will get.
Correct. Sanjoy, in the automotive category, I mean, what are the use cases for the bots, that you have come across?
Yeah, so I think, I concur with, I think, most of what was said in terms of the use cases, the low-hanging fruits, the no-brainer sort of. So anything which is transactional, right, where, it can be quickly trained to the AI, so think of typically post-sale sort of scenarios, booking the rides or test rides and all of that. So that is where it is currently, but I think, over a period of time, I think we are also seeing a shift in terms of expectations from customers. And I think, we are already hearing parts of it in today's conversation, right? Now, if I take a step back, right, think of it in 2007 or 2008, or maybe 2005, mobile apps. Right, it was the most jazzy toy which came in, right? And every brand built out a mobile app. Everyone wanted to have a mobile app of the brand, but very soon you realize that it's just the skin, right? It's about integrations. I think Shakil or Sudhir, one of you mentioned about integrations, right? It's about feeding the data, and I think we are seeing the same journey in the chatbot space itself. Right, there were a lot of experimentation, a lot of low-hanging fruits, but now we have maxed it out, and now it's about figuring out, what will make it easy for us to take it to the next level. So my sense is, and that's what I am a strong believer in, that chatbots today is more at a horizontal positioning, but increasingly in the next 1 year, 2 years, you will see vertical domain specializations coming up. We being one of them. So we do only retail and consumer goods. We don't do anything else. The reason being, I think, what is being talked about. It's very hard for customers to train the AI on your product. You have to sit and create the data, right? But it needs to come with some pre-built domain knowledge where machine learning comes in, AI comes in, and then it becomes easy to learn on the specific company's data, right? So over a period of time, what I see as use cases would be around pre-sale, and it's already started. Maybe in some of the other categories, not so much in auto, but that's the place where we are going in. But currently, it is largely to do with automation-oriented use cases. I don't know whether others agree, but clearly vertical domain AI will be the next thing.
Interesting. I think we'll come to discuss that. It's now time for a quick poll for our audiences. Can we have the first question on the screen, please? Yes. So the first question is on the screen for the audiences. Do you currently use a messaging platform to engage with your customers? Audiences, please share your answers. It's pretty unfair that the host and panelists cannot do it.
I was going to say that.
Can we have the results for this one? Or team, can we have the next question? Yeah. Do you think instant messaging apps could drastically improve customer experience? Now, can I have the final question? And the final question is, would you like to talk to a Gupshup expert on how other organizations has leveraged chatbots and messaging? Great. Alok, coming to you, from where Sanjoy left, he was talking about, the possible use cases of, how automotive industry, how bots can be used in the automotive industry, and, how they see, more and more number of audiences, looking at the digital medium, to interact with the brands. So I want to understand one thing. When audiences are on this medium and interacting with the brands, how strong is their intent, for the purchase? Or is it the stronger intent only develops when you visit the stores, especially in a high ticket purchase like in auto?
Yeah, so I'd like to sort of, before I respond to that, a follow on some of the earlier conversations, which is that this business, whether you're an OE manufacturing vehicles or an aftermarket player like MyTVS, where we're doing the service maintenance and repair work for your vehicle, it still remains a business of persuasion. And even while you need to do a lot of research to buy your vehicle, you also, service is a very postponable service and a very postponable decision, because nothing's going to break if you don't service your car tomorrow, right? So it's not a linear purchase, and therefore persuasiveness plays a very important role. To your other question about customer intent, I think, look, it's a surprising discovery even for us. When we started this business a few years ago, we thought that it's an interesting experiment for a business like ours, which has a traditional rooting in the auto space. It's a natural extension to get into service and get into digital demand and service digitally fulfilled, if you will. But it's been very surprising and very encouraging. It gives us great confidence in the business model we are building and the velocity at which we are growing in terms of the seriousness of the intent.
Okay.
Our, like I said, our top of funnel metrics are extremely healthy. Our conversion ratios are a high double digit. Our retention rates are very, very high, and that's what we measure on, because we want to see how many customers come back for the service. So intent does seem to be extremely strong. What the customer needs is that persuasive push to go and make that decision. But if the customer is in the mindset, getting them to make that purchase decision is quite linear and relatively easy, right? which is not to say that every customer who comes into my inquiry funnel converts into an end customer, but we have a very serious and a very solid re-engagement, re-engagement funnel as well. So we do see high purchase intent translate into high velocity of growth and high conversion into revenue conversion.
Okay. So and this persuasiveness, is it done at the digital level, or is this persuasiveness done at the physical level?
Currently, I manage a very large call center operation. That's just the nature of the beast, where every customer gets called, and so we take every inquiry very seriously. Every customer who enters my funnel is seen as a serious inquiry, and there are human beings who are chasing other human beings to convert the sale. What we are intending to do is to do some of the heavy lifting now through the app. And I think conversational AI, while seen largely as a web interface, has to find space in the web, in the app interface, right? What we are thinking about is there a way to use voice and conversational AI to give push notification? Why does it have to be an in-app notification that's only buzzing? Right. As ex-country manager of an Amazon business, which was purely in the voice-enabled service, I know the power of what voice can deliver, but it has to be delivered meaningfully. And business owners like us have to do it responsibly, where we're not abusing the space of the user simply because we have access to his app or web or email or what have you. So I think there is definitely space for voice-enabled services to do the heavy lifting that humans are doing. It's about finding the right solution and finding the right intelligent service partner who can build bespoke solutions for you. Most vendors and are looking to sell the same service across industries and businesses, and I think that's where we are suffering as an industry. If we can find someone building the bespoke solutions that our business requires, all of us across this table will be willing to make the investments that are required to bring that to fruition.
Interesting. Sudhir, at Honda, at Renault, okay, at what stage, the queries, are being handed over to the customer care center, a human at a customer care center? At what stage and at what type of queries?
So, Devesh, once the intent from the consumer is clear, of course there are different channels, but I presume this is related to the bot. Once the prospect has contacted us through the bot, and they show an intent to be spoken, because there are choices there. You can continue your conversation with the bot itself to arrive at to the level where you can book your booking without human intervention. So you can continue doing your journey from understanding the car or the product to do your booking. So there is a channel available where the consumer can actually go through right from searching, understanding to booking the car. And then there could be a situation where the consumer herself ask for a human intervention. So that's when the switch to the human intervention happens. So while I speak this, we are right now, getting into another bot, which is voice bot. So this one is WhatsApp and a chat-based bot, and now we are going to pilot the voice bot as we speak in the coming month. So that's the next step, and we'll take it forward with an integration of a video channel for a contact center, so that this entire situation can be timed at the right moment for a human intervention, which could be through a video channel. So it's kind of a something that we're trying to now do, is a seamless movement from the bot to a human intervention, which would be required as per the customer's convenience. So it's right now what is happening is either the customer can do his booking entirely on his own understanding, or he can progress towards the contact center or a dealership basis his or her choice.
Interesting. Also I wanted to understand from you, Sudhir, how do you set the metrics? That you have a Renault Assistant app, Renault Assistant, okay, for the
Virtual
customer,
assistant, as we call it.
Renault
Yeah.
virtual assistant that you have for your customers, okay. So, what are the metrics that you have set to identify that the virtual assistant has performed well, and the derive ROI and the success ratios on it?
So, the first part relates to, as I mentioned, when we started, it was merely to be an inquiry handling assistance for the consumers. There, it was clearly, we started with the number of conversations that we could attract and generate. Here, our expectations initially were much lower, Devesh, than what I mentioned. We have now reached 200,000 plus
Yeah.
conversations. So that in itself is a fair amount of interaction happening through the bot. And now, as I mentioned, we have progressed it to a bot that can handle, that can generate leads directly, which flow into our dealer management system at the dealers directly, again without a human intervention, or else can convert into bookings. So there again, the numbers have become sizable in the last few months. From while this was not the direct need, what we don't get to know is how many customers or how many prospects get influenced through these interactions of bots, and then they contact our dealers as a walk-in, or they contact them as a telephonic. So that part is something which is not visible, but the amount of interactions, right from the number of downloads of brochures to the interactions that are happening, and what kind of product is getting uh, attracted, is attracting more bot traffic. All that is some of the metrics that we get into in terms of detailings.
Interesting, interesting. Shakil, what do you think about, the metrics that, Sudhir has just shared, and, the way you can, in terms of, the brochure downloads, in terms of conversations, do you concur these are the great metrics? And do you think, are there any other metrics one should consider, while looking at the effectiveness of the deployment of the bots within the ecosystem?
No, I absolutely concur with Sudhir. I think he's explained it very well. Way forward for us also is very similar. So I would not like to repeat. Essentially, a single view and an option to the customer to either to connect to text or voice or video. And finally, he has the choice to go physically to the showroom. And a two-way conversation, sharing, downloading information, and all the parameters remain the same. If at all, one aspect, or this is the sales aspect, is the service part. We are tagged at problem solving and the time required, satisfaction scores do add. That's another parameter where, which get added to it. Otherwise, I think he's covered it all. Yeah. Thanks.
Right, right, right. And Nalin, I mean, a little while ago, we were having a discussion on, the language part of the bots. Okay. So today we, as automotive brands, so I'm sure you have audiences from all across the country. Somebody would be very comfortable, talking in English, while others may be comfortable talking in English, or Marathi or Kannada, or, multiple languages. So how important is it for bots, to be able to process those multiple languages and then, respond to audiences? Because one language, talking in English might not suffice for country like India, audiences in a country like India.
Sure, I think you raise a very valid issue. It's extremely important for the bots or any kind of conversational technology to be speaking and thinking in the voice of the local consumer, right? And that becomes more pertinent for certain categories, okay, or certain segments. So among cars, let's say certain segments, two-wheelers, even commercial vehicles to a large. So it's very important. Not only bots, but if you see the platforms now, auto tech platforms, whether for new vehicles or used vehicles, are customizing platforms in vernacular languages. So based on geotagging of who the consumer is, where the visitor came from, I think there are various options available now to look at information in your own vernacular language. Not only that, there's a step forward now. Auto tech platforms are talking of personalized platforms now. Right. So what you were doing, what you want to do, so the information, the language of that information, the kind of information is all getting personalized, and I think that's it. So if all this is happening, something like bots or conversational technologies can't be left behind, and I think that's the way to go, because it definitely helps improve consumer connect, as well as some of the metrics which earlier were mentioned by Sudhir. So I think it's very relevant. People have started to try it, and come to think of it, it doesn't take much. Once your basic technology, the product stack is available, once your basic content is available, then customizing it or changing it to various languages or forms is not a very difficult task. There are tools, technologies available. You can also put some human interface. And this would further, what it will do is, in addition to improving the metrics, I personally feel that such intervention will bring digital, as a business, as a platform, closer to consumers in hinterlands and even in cities, probably, right? Sometimes we kind of think of cities as one uniform English-speaking or audience of population. It's not like that. So earlier on in the discussion, Devesh, we were mentioning as to why during the pandemic there was a strong affinity and usage of digital, while pandemic per se was a prime reason. But I think usage of whatever we discussed, getting closer to the consumer, right, shaking hands with the consumer in local languages and local interfaces with tools which they understand very well. I think that has helped the digital industry a lot, auto tech industry a lot, and that's the way to go forward.
Interesting. Coming to you, Sanjoy, we, are Indian brands, adopting this technology more and more to conversational AI, okay, to connect with their consumers, especially in the automotive sector?
Yes, I think the fact that we are having this conversation today with some of the stalwarts from the industry itself, gives us that answer, right? So it absolutely yes, and again, we have done implementations for some of the biggest auto brands already. We see that shift already happening. I think it was Shakil or Sudhir who mentioned at the very beginning that there is a big demand push coming from the rural sector, right? And in the auto world today, right? So urban is one part. You talk about qualified people who are used to technology, laptops, mobiles, etc. The rural bit is, I think, that untapped market for auto companies where conversational AI hopefully will open up a completely new set of audience for auto companies, because you have people with the money, people with the aspiration, and now that easy to use interface where you don't really need any hand holding or help, right? So
right.
I think that would be one area where we would see a lot of adoption coming in from.
Correct. We are running out of time. So before I close the session, I would like you to share, a one-liner answer to this final question. What are the kind of, next set of innovations that you would want to witness in the chatbots? Sudhir, I'll start with you first.
So I'll just step back, and I know we're in want of time. We've already done. We talked about languages. We've already done with languages. We've got ourselves into Hindi, Marathi, Tamil, and it's a more digitally inclusive world that we've been able to create as we see more and more prospects coming onto it. Though English still remains a largely preferred language. So, going forward, as I mentioned, whatever we are doing digitally, which means a digital along with a human intervention, is what I expect to happen through the bots. Today we are talking about certain parts of our pre-sales, sales, and post-sales processes being taken care of by these bots. But anticipation is in the coming years, the entire journey gets taken over. We today know of customers who are not visiting dealerships even for their final delivery. So that's and it's the most asset I would say the asset is the most heavy in terms of the purchase, and yet we see this significant development. So that's the anticipation, Devesh, for me, that the entire journey is taken over by these intelligent bots, and uh, mm, and it gets seamlessly integrated with other medium that may be used from time to time to pursue the entire sales or after sales journey of the consumer.
Perfect. Perfect. Shakil, what's your thought? I mean, like, what are kind of innovations that you would want to see?
Simply put, single customer, single journey. Need to see an integration backward, forward, one conversation happening, contextual and useful to the customer. That's the way forward, and I guess AI and ML is the way to back it up.
Great. Alok, your thoughts?
Or simply put, humanized technology, technology that is built for humans, easy to deploy, but easier to use.
Great, great. Nalin?
Sure, something. I think each consumer journey is very unique, especially in automotive industry, because it's a long set journey, complex journey. Each journey is unique. And so what I would look forward to, something which kind of addresses that. So empathetic bots, let's say, it's talking to me about my journey, about my nature. That's what it's.
Very nice. And finally, Sanjoy, your thoughts?
So I think, what I touched upon, vertical AI bot, so it domain specific understands the domain, and something which can ease out the training and the setup bit, because that's the most difficult part. Implementing a bot is easy. I think, it's no rocket science. Getting the backend knowledge base setup, training data,
right.
That's where the innovation, and hopefully let Alok and Shakil get the bots that they want very soon.
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining today. It was a very interesting conversation, and some really interesting anticipations in terms of the new technology that we want to look into the bots. Starting from the language from end to end, taking care of the conversations, and how it cannot be just a horizontal growth for the bots. It has to be verticalized. Thank you very much for taking our time and sharing your thoughts and learnings with us. Thank you.